Late at night in the Sapphire Heights Hotel, a figure walks across the gleaming marble floor, Elon Musk, the billionaire founder, in search of a quiet moment. But no one in the hotel knows that the true owner is silently observing. From his hidden vantage point, he witnesses an unexpected event. A young employee, Michael, subjected to unfair treatment by a wealthy couple steeped in prejudice. Why does Musk choose not to reveal his identity? And how he handles the situation will make you reflect on the nature of power, integrity, and the true value of humanity. The story begins. The glass door of the Sapphire Heights Hotel creaked open as Elon Musk stepped into the lobby, the marble floor reflecting his footsteps. The digital clock behind the front desk displayed 10:45 p.m. He had purposely chosen this time, knowing that the aspiring executives and the power-hungry had long since left. Another ordinary second night, he thought, adjusting the collar of his wrinkled blue shirt, an item he hadn't bothered to change after his SpaceX board meeting. It wasn't a business trip. This was his opportunity to inspect his latest acquisition. The only reasonable way to approach it: remain anonymous. The hotel lobby before him unfolded like a cathedral of modern opulence, with a soaring ceiling and crystal chandeliers sparkling above. The acquisition of the hotel had been handled quietly, through shell companies, to the point that even the senior managers of the establishment had no idea who the new owner was. It suited Elon perfectly. His gaze settled in the center of the lobby, where a young African-American man in a pristine hotel uniform was carefully arranging white jasmine flowers in a large crystal vase at the center. Michael, as the name tag indicated, moved with precise care, handling each stem as though it were made of glass. The scene made Elon pause, reminding him of his mother, who always said that you could judge a person's character by how they handled the small details when they thought no one was watching. "Good evening, sir," Michael said, looking up with a professional smile. "Welcome to Sapphire Heights." Elon nodded, his exhaustion apparent. It wasn't hard to see. He had been awake for nearly 45 hours. "Thank you. The flowers are beautiful," Elon said softly. Michael offered a warmer smile. "Thank you, sir. We get fresh flowers every evening. The jasmine was my suggestion. They last longer than the roses we used to use." "Smart choice," Elon replied, a note of appreciation in his voice. He admired people who could think of efficiency even in the smallest things. Gentle classical music played in the background, a tune Elon couldn't recall the name of, filling the brief silence. A fountain softly gurgled near the bar entrance, all designed to whisper luxury, comfort, and escape. "Do you need assistance with check-in, sir?" Michael asked, setting the pruning shears down. "Not yet," Elon replied, gesturing to a leather sofa deep in the shadowed corner. "I think I'll just sit here for a while if that's all right." "Of course, sir. If you need anything, please let me know." Elon sank into the chair, exhaling deeply. His phone buzzed, likely another crisis requiring immediate attention. The Twitter board threatening to sue him over his latest tweets, Tesla stock dropping 15% after the self-driving incident, and SpaceX. He pushed the thoughts aside. Just a few minutes, he told himself he wanted to be invisible. But the peace in the lobby didn't last long. The elevator dinged softly, and a couple emerged, dressed for a night out. The man, in a freshly pressed suit, clearly knew money, and the woman, wearing a dress that likely cost more than many people's rent. They spoke in that tone of those who had drunk just enough expensive wine to feel superior, but not enough to slur their words. "It's ridiculous," the woman said, her heels tapping lightly on the marble floor. "The dinner service last night was absolutely unacceptable. I told Caleb we shouldn't recommend Logan to anyone anymore." Her companion grunted in agreement. "The standards these days are really slipping. It's as if no one takes pride in their work anymore." They headed toward the front desk, where Michael had returned to his flower arrangements. The woman cleared her throat loudly. "Excuse me, we need to speak to someone about our room service today," she said, her tone full of challenge, clearly displeased. Michael set the vase down and turned back to face them, his professional demeanor unshaken. "Of course, ma'am. How may I assist you?" The woman's lips tightened, looking over her companion before speaking, her subtle disdain evident. "First of all, I'm quite surprised to see you here. Isn't there someone else who could help us? From his shadowed corner in the lobby, Elon observed the entire exchange. His hand gripped his phone tightly, the impulse to stand up and confront the couple gnawing at him. Elon felt his teeth clench. He had heard this tone far too many times, directed at others, and at him in his younger days, and it always rubbed him the wrong way. But Elon also understood that if he acted immediately, he wouldn't be able to fully assess the situation. After a few seconds of internal struggle, he decided to remain a silent observer. Elon sat quietly in the shadows, his eyes never leaving Michael. He told himself, to truly understand, I need to learn more about them. The issue isn't just in their words, but in how they behave when they think they have the right to oppress others. The lobby grew quiet again, but the air remained heavy. Michael, though tense, continued his task of arranging the flowers, his hand trembling slightly, but his gaze unwavering. Elon understood, an injustice was unfolding before his eyes, and he needed to find a way to address it at the right moment. The man's voice echoed, dripping with disdain, as if he'd decided that some people belonged in certain boxes and would be furious if those boxes were disturbed. Michael's expression remained unchanged, but his shoulders stiffened slightly, almost imperceptibly. Yes, I'm the lead attendant here tonight, Michael replied, his tone calm. I'd be happy to assist you with any room service inquiries. The man took a small step forward, locking eyes with Michael. No offense, but we'd prefer to speak with someone more appropriate, he said. I'm sorry, sir, Michael answered, his voice still steady, but I'm the lead attendant here tonight. If you'd like to speak with the manager, I can gladly pass on your information. The woman's face flushed. This is exactly the issue with this place lately. Henry, we should have stayed at the Four Seasons. At least they know how to maintain proper standards. She thought she was being subtle, but Elon realized they still believed they were being polite with their racism. Elon clenched his briefcase, a part of him wanting to stand up immediately and show them who owned the place, but another part, the part that had learned, through painful experience, how people behave when they think no one is watching, kept him seated. Michael kept his professional composure, though Elon could see the tension in his hand as he gripped the arm of his chair. Please feel free to explain your concerns about room service, and I'll make sure they're addressed immediately, Michael said. The couple exchanged a glance, words unnecessary. The man slightly bent forward, lowering his voice but never diminishing his arrogance. Hey kid, maybe you're new here, but this used to be a prestigious hotel. We come in and what do we find? Well, I'm sure you get what I'm saying. We'll be in touch with management about your hiring policies. Elon felt a wave of nausea. He'd gone over the hotel's records. Michael had worked here for 5 years and had received numerous accolades. With one tweet, one video, he could ruin these people's lives. But that wasn't why he was here. She kept speaking, her voice growing louder. It's just about maintaining standards, you know? Some jobs require a certain level of performance. There are definitely other jobs better suited for people like you. Michael stood motionless, his face still a mask of politeness. I understand you're dissatisfied, ma'am. Would you like me to note down your concerns for management to review? Don't you dare disrespect us, the man barked. This is the exact attitude I'm talking about. No respect for tradition, no sense of how to do things properly. Let's go, Madeline, we'll deal with this tomorrow morning. As they walked toward the elevator, their voices echoed through the empty lobby. Can you believe this? Right here in the main lobby, as if it's normal. This whole country's going down the drain. We should post something online so everyone knows what kind of establishment this is. The elevator doors closed, leaving a heavy silence in their wake. Michael stood there for a long moment before slowly returning to his bouquet. His hand trembled as he grasped a lily, but he continued his task, each stem placed with mathematical precision. Elon watched him work, noting how he straightened his back, took a deep breath, and resumed his meticulous attention to the bouquet as if nothing had happened. The small action, his dignity in not letting their rudeness alter the way he worked, struck Elon more powerfully than any words the couple could have spoken. He considered standing up, revealing himself now, but something held him back. The night wasn't over, and he felt that they wouldn't stop here. Sometimes, he'd learned, You have to let things unfold before you can truly correct them. So he stayed in his dark corner, watching Michael work, waiting for what would happen next. The background music in the lobby continued softly, ethereally, while outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, Los Angeles glittered like a field of stars. Time passed, minute by minute. Elon shifted slightly in his chair, feeling his back ache. He should go to his room, check his emails, do 1,000 other things. But instead, he just watched Michael, watched him work meticulously, each stem placed with perfect accuracy. A young couple walked through the lobby, almost ignoring Michael as he politely nodded in greeting. A businesswoman pushed her suitcase toward the elevator, her phone still pressed to her ear. Everything seemed normal, the usual flow of guests moving about, but Elon could feel the lingering tension in the air. His phone buzzed again, this time with a message from his assistant regarding tomorrow's meetings. He began typing a response when the elevator bell rang again. Unbelievable! The woman's voice rang out, louder than before. She and her husband turned around, now wearing bathrobes over expensive-looking gowns. First, the embarrassing performance in the lobby, and now the air conditioning in our room isn't working properly. The atmosphere in the Sapphire Heights hotel lobby seemed to freeze as the Grants continued to press Michael. They loudly complained, with Madeline's words dripping with contempt. What a disappointment, she said, her voice shrill. The hotel standards have severely dropped recently. Henry, standing beside her, echoed her words as though affirming them. Michael looked up from his screen where he was typing. I apologize for the inconvenience, ma'am. I can have maintenance sent up immediately. No, she interrupted sharply, her tone icy. I don't want you calling anyone. Henry, this is unacceptable. Show him the video. The man held up his phone. We recorded everything. The way you acted, your inappropriate presence in the lobby, the condition of the room. We've posted it online. Tomorrow morning, everyone will know what kind of place this hotel has become. Elon's fingers tightened around his phone. He looked at Michael, seeing him struggling to maintain his composure, noticing the slight tremor in his hand. Sir, Michael said softly, I understand you're dissatisfied. I can arrange another room for you immediately, or if you prefer, I can process your checkout and assist with finding alternative accommodations. Oh, you'd love that, wouldn't you? The woman mocked. You want to kick us out? We've been staying at this hotel for 15 years, attending charity events, knowing the hotel owners, and now we have to deal with being insulted by someone like you. Elon's voice cut through the air of the lobby, sharp as a blade. He stood up slowly, stepping out of the shadows, the lobby lights now casting a clear glow on him, making the couple realize who they were dealing with. I'm curious, ma'am. What standard do you intend to maintain here? The expression on their faces shifted quickly, from irritation at being interrupted, to surprise as they realized, and finally, a slow dawning of recognition. Mr. Musk, the man stammered. We didn't know, clearly, Elon said, walking toward them, his voice calm but resonant in the quiet of the lobby. Please, continue. I'm very curious to hear what you intended to say. The entire lobby seemed to tighten as Elon approached them. Madeline gripped her designer robe tightly, while Henry's phone shook slightly in his hand. We didn't mean to, Madeline faltered, her eyes filled with desperation as she glanced at her husband. But Henry seemed frozen in place. Your post is already online, isn't it? Elon asked, his voice steady, trying to remain composed. Henry handed over his phone, his hand trembling. The Facebook post was starting to attract attention. Terrible service at Sapphire Heights, standards have collapsed, treated by a front desk employee who doesn't know his place, stay away. Michael stood silently behind the front desk, his face an unreadable mask. But Elon could see his hands clenched tightly, rigid with tension. Interesting choice of words, Elon said, handing the phone back to Henry. Tell me, how long have you two been staying at my hotel? Madeline paled. But the Brooks family sold it to me 8 months ago. Elon calmly walked to the front desk, standing next to Michael. So I have access to all guest records. Michael, could you tell me how long the Grants have been staying here? Michael maintained his professional demeanor, without a hint of wavering. The Grants have been regular guests for about 17 years, sir. They frequently stay in Suite 1352 during their monthly business trips to the city. Monthly business trips? Elon repeated. That's quite a commitment. And in all that time, have there been any complaints about your service? No, sir. This is the first time an issue has occurred, Michael replied. Henry stepped forward, his business instincts kicking in. Mr. Musk, clearly there's been a misunderstanding. We have the utmost respect for your business acumen, and had we known you owned this hotel, we would have treated your staff differently. Elon's voice now held an edge. Interesting. Please, explain how that would have improved anything. The sound of the stream softly lapping against the bank mirrored the awkwardness that filled the hallway. A late guest hurried past, the tension in the air palpable. We have certain expectations, Madeline said, her chin raised in a show of defiance, standards we're accustomed to. I'm sure you understand as a businessman. Standards? Elon repeated, glancing at Michael. How long have you been working here? 7 years, sir, Michael replied calmly. And what is your position now? I'm a senior receptionist. I was promoted last year after completing my MBA in hotel management. Elon nodded thoughtfully before turning back to face the Grants. So, a person with an MBA and 5 years of experience with a record of excellent service doesn't meet your standards? I'm curious, what exactly are your standards? Henry's face flushed with anger. Look here, we're platinum members of your loyalty program. We've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars here over the years. We don't deserve to be questioned like some people who have posted racist comments about your staff. Like the people who threatened to expose my hotel for having the audacity to promote a qualified employee instead of meeting your personal expectations? Elon interrupted, his tone calm but sharp. Madeline quickly reached up, clutching her pearl necklace. We didn't say anything like that. We didn't mean, oh, but you did, Elon replied gently. You said everything you meant, you just didn't expect to be saying it to someone you couldn't bully. He paused for a moment before continuing, let me be clear, your loyalty membership is revoked immediately. You are no longer welcome at this hotel or any of its properties worldwide. You can't do that. Madeline screamed, her voice high-pitched. Do you know who we are? Who we know? I know exactly who you are, Elon said, his voice even. And thanks to your social media posts, soon everyone else will know too, just not in the way you want. Elon pulled out his phone and began typing. Henry stepped forward, his eyes wide with confusion. Mr. Musk, please, we can discuss this rationally. Maybe a donation to a charity of some sort? Bribing to escape consequences? How predictable! Elon finished the sentence and handed his phone to them. On the screen was Elon's Twitter account with millions of followers and a draft post, witness disgusting racism at my hotel tonight. 2 guests harassed an outstanding employee and posted racist comments online. Their behavior shows why we must continue to fight against all forms of discrimination. Stand with Michael, who showed remarkable composure under pressure. #No tolerance. The Grants stood frozen, staring at the screen in horror. Their social media presence, business relationships, positions on charity boards, and the reputation they had built would all crumble the moment Elon pressed send. Please, Madeline whispered. Our grandchildren follow you on Twitter. Our friends will see what you're really like. Elon paused, his finger hovering over the post button. Unless, we'll do whatever you want, Henry said quickly, his voice lacking confidence. Elon turned to Michael, his gaze resolute. It's up to you. They've insulted you, threatened your job, and publicly humiliated you. Do you think should happen? Michael was silent for a long moment, staring at the Grants. When he spoke, his voice was steady. I think everyone deserves a chance to learn from their mistakes, if they're truly willing to understand why their actions were wrong. Elon nodded thoughtfully. Interesting. Here's what's going to happen. First, you will delete your social media posts and instead issue a public apology to Michael, particularly for your racist behavior. Second, you will make a significant donation to the hotel's employee education fund to help our staff continue to learn and grow. Third, you will participate in our company's diversity and inclusion training program. Not just one session, but the full program. And if we refuse? Henry asked, but his voice no longer carried any certainty. Then I'll hit post and add the security footage from the hotel cameras, showing your disgusting display in its entirety. The choice is yours. The Grants exchanged a look, the world they had carefully built beginning to collapse. Finally, Henry shakily pulled out his phone and began deleting the original post. Elon, the apology has to be specific, Elon reminded them. Elon spoke, his eyes shifting over his shoulder. There is no such thing as an apology without admitting fault. Face what you've done and why it's wrong. As Henry continued typing, Madeline turned to Michael, her eyes welling with tears. She began, but then fell silent, seemingly unsure of what else to say. The scholarship fund might need a new spot, Michael said softly. Perhaps one focused on promoting diversity in hotel management positions. Elon offered a small smile. Great suggestion. The diversity grant fund sounds like a solid idea, doesn't it? I'm sure they'd be more than happy to sponsor it, right? Henry nodded vacantly, still typing out his apology. The next hour passed in a blur of rapid activities. Papers signed, agreements made, promises exchanged. When the Grant family finally left and returned to their room, it was already early morning, with the sky beginning to brighten. I should have thrown them out of the hotel the moment I heard those words, Elon said once they had gone. Sorry you had to deal with that. Michael shook his head. You handled it better this way. They might actually learn something. Though, he smiled lightly, I wouldn't mind if that post went up. Elon chuckled, then yawned. The initial surge of excitement gradually faded, replaced by the exhaustion of the past few days. You should get some rest, sir, Michael said. It's been a long night. Yeah, Elon agreed. I think I'll rest. But first. He pulled out his phone again and made a quick call. Hello, it's me. Update the employee recognition program immediately. Create a new position, Director of Guest Relations and Standards. The salary should reflect the importance of maintaining, our standards. He winked at Michael. I have the perfect person for the role. As they walked toward the elevator, Elon stopped. You know, I came here tonight to inspect the hotel anonymously. Never expected to find myself in the middle of all this. Life rarely goes as planned, Michael replied. Sometimes that's for the better. Elon nodded thoughtfully. True. Good night, Michael, or good morning, I guess. Good morning, sir, and thank you. The elevator doors closed, leaving Michael alone in the lobby. He turned back to look at the flowers, adjusting a lily that had shifted slightly. The first rays of sunlight began to paint the sky outside, promising a new day, and perhaps a touch of justice. Up in his room, Elon collapsed onto the bed, still fully dressed. His phone buzzed with urgent messages from 3 different companies, but this time, he ignored them. Sometimes, the most important work happens in those unexpected moments, in quiet lobbies, at dawn, when the world is still asleep. He closed his eyes, thinking about the faces of the Grant family when they realized who he was, about Michael's calm demeanor, about all the battles yet to be fought. But that was a thought for another day. For now, sleep called, and this time he answered without resistance. The hotel continued to hum softly around him, its daily rhythm unchanged, but something had shifted, even if just a little. Sometimes, all it takes is a small moment of justice, a quiet stand against wrongdoing, a reminder that even in this cynical world, dignity can still prevail over prejudice. As Elon drifted off to sleep, he smiled faintly. Maybe tomorrow, he'd buy another hotel. After all, there were surely more Michaels out there, and plenty of Grants who needed to learn a lesson about real standards. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the large windows of room 2245, but Elon Musk had already woken up. He hadn't slept much, maybe only 2 hours. Still, his mind kept returning to the events of the night before, the faces of the Grant family, Michael's calmness. His phone displayed 150 missed calls, a new record. He scrolled through them absently while the coffee machine in his room hissed. A story had spread like wildfire on social media. Video and images from last night's events, along with the Grant's public apology, had become the focal point of discussions. The hashtag Hotel Justice quickly trended, followed by a flood of posts from hotel employees worldwide. Stories were shared, ranging from racial and gender discrimination to enduring patronizing attitudes from customers who saw themselves as superior. Many people said they felt heard for the first time. Elon Musk, accustomed to media attention, had now become a symbol for a revolutionary movement. Some praised the accountability, others called it coercion. The truth, as usual, lay somewhere in between. The gentle knock at the door interrupted Elon's thoughts. Room service, a voice rang out. Come in, Elon responded, hastily running a hand through his tousled hair. The door opened, revealing a young woman with a breakfast cart. A name tag on her chest read, Sophia. She paused for a moment upon seeing him, then quickly regained her professional composure. Good morning, Mr. Musk. I have your breakfast as requested, she said with a polite smile. Elon furrowed his brow. I didn't order breakfast. Sophia smiled softly. It's a gift from Michael, sir. He thought you might need it after last night. She placed the meal on the table, eggs Benedict, fresh fruit, and the rich aroma of coffee filling the air. Elon noticed her looking at him with a hint of worry. What's wrong, Sophia? He asked. She hesitated for a moment before quickly answering, everyone here knows about last night with the Grant family and Michael's promotion. She adjusted the silverware on the table with care. It's just, people like them, they've been allowed to treat us this way for years. Elon took a sip of the coffee, savoring its robust flavor. Has that happened to you? Sophia paused briefly, her hands still on the tablecloth. Last month, a guest told me I wasn't qualified to handle their special dietary request just because of where I come from. I'm actually a trained nutritionist, working here while finishing my culinary degree. She gave a wry smile. They requested someone more qualified. Meanwhile, the hotel manager apologized and moved me to a different floor. She straightened her back, smoothing her uniform. But after last night, everything feels different. The door opened again, and Michael entered, this time in a perfectly pressed suit. Good morning, sir. I hope you don't mind that I took the liberty of preparing breakfast, he said. Not at all, Elon replied, though curious. How come you're still here after such a long night? The morning's been interesting, Michael said with calm composure but a hint of humor. The Grant family checked out early this morning. They tried to give me a huge tip when they left. When I declined, Mrs. Grant actually cried. Sophia let out a small laugh before quickly covering it with a light cough. But that's not why I'm here, Michael continued. The incident with the Grant family has spread everywhere. We've gotten calls from all the major news outlets, and Hotel Justice is trending on Twitter. The Brooks family, the former owners, are also concerned about their reputation, Elon said, sitting down with his cup of coffee in hand. Let them worry about that. What about the staff here? Here's the interesting part, Michael said, looking at Sophia. She nodded, signaling him to continue. Everyone's talking, not just here, but at other hotels too. The service staff is sharing their stories, demanding to be treated better. The Grant family might be an extreme case, but they're not the only ones. Pointing at her phone, Sophia added, we have a staff chat group. Usually, it's just to warn about problematic guests, but now, she opened her phone and showed Elon a long message thread. Everyone's talking about what happened last night. Elon scrolled through the messages, stories of abuse, discrimination, and struggling with self-worth in the face of prejudice. But now there was something else. Hope, determination, a sense that change was on the way. The morning news wants to interview us, Michael said. They're calling this a turning point for the hotel industry. No interviews, Elon cut in, his voice firm. This isn't about me or about seeking fame. This is another knock on the door. Hurriedly dressed in an expensive suit, barged in before anyone could react. Mr. Musk, thank God you're here. I'm Mark Brooks III, he said, extending his hand, but Elon did not shake it. The Grant family incident. We need to resolve this immediately. My family's reputation, Elon interrupted. Your family sold this hotel 8 months ago, along with a culture of looking the other way when guests abused staff. Mark Brooks' face hardened. Look, we've run this hotel for 3 generations. The Grant family has been one of our most valued clients for a long time. Michael gently interjected, I've worked here for 5 years under your management. I've submitted 10 formal complaints about guest discrimination, all of which were ignored. 3 of my colleagues left for the same reason. You knew about this, but you chose to prioritize your valuable guests over protecting your staff. Sophia stepped forward, her gaze slightly anxious. I've filed complaints 3 times. Your HR department told me I was being too sensitive and needed to focus on improving my service, she said, her voice trembling. Brooks stammered, but Elon raised his hand to stop him. I think this meeting is over. Michael, please escort Mr. Brooks out and ensure that his family's lifetime membership privileges are revoked. After they left, Elon turned back to Sophia. Tell me more about this chat group. How many hotel staff are involved? There are thousands from hundreds of hotels, Sophia replied, her eyes lighting up. Elon gave a slight smile and took out his phone. Then I think Sapphire Heights might need to have more sister hotels, places where mutual respect is the foundation, where talent is valued more than money, and where the true standard means treating everyone fairly. Sophia stared at him, her eyes wide. You mean? Absolutely, I have a few calls to make and some hotels to buy. Elon paused, then added, and maybe a scholarship program for quality culinary schools. Sophia's smile could light up the entire room. The morning passed quickly. The reporters arrived, old clients called to apologize or complain, and in the chaos, Elon's coffee was knocked over, but he barely noticed. For the first time in weeks, he felt energized, focused, and alive. Sometimes, the biggest changes begin with the smallest moments. A quiet confrontation in an empty lobby, a decision that took too long to make, standing up against injustice, a simple choice to listen. The ripples were spreading, not just throughout the hotel, but beyond the city, carrying the potential for real change. At 3:30 p.m., in the hotel room with breakfast leftovers and unread messages, Elon Musk smiled. Tesla could wait, so could SpaceX. For now, he had another revolution to kick off. His phone buzzed with another interview request from a news agency. He ignored it and instead opened his messaging app, creating a new group, the Hotel Standard Revolution, adding Michael and Sophia as the first members. It's time to redefine luxury, he typed, starting with dignity. Immediate responses flooded in, full of excitement and readiness for change. Outside, the morning light had risen high, casting long shadows across the hotel lobby floor, where everything had begun. Sometimes, the best investments aren't in technology, rockets, or electric cars, but in people, in moments of justice, in small actions against old ways, and sometimes, those investments end up changing the world. A month later, the Sapphire Heights lobby looked completely different in the morning light. The marble floors reflected a warm glow, and the white lights still held Michael's signature touch as if they were glowing under the sunlight streaming through the windows. Elon stood by the front desk, observing the morning bustle. He had become accustomed to dropping by unannounced over the past month, a habit that no longer surprised the staff. But today was different. Today was the day to make permanent changes. The reporters are gathering outside, Sophia said, approaching with a tablet in her hand. She had swapped her room service uniform for a sleek office suit, fitting her new role as Assistant Director of Guest Relations. Are you sure you want to do this publicly? Sometimes, the best way to ensure change is to make it irreversible, Elon replied, glancing at his phone. No missed calls. He had dedicated this morning to this moment. Michael stepped out of his new office, now dressed in a tailored suit with a director's badge on the lapel. The Grant family lawyer called again. They want to renegotiate terms. What do you think? Elon asked, even though he already knew the answer. Michael smiled faintly. I told them what I've been saying all month. Actions must have consequences. Our scholarship fund is doing great work, and we've already selected the first 15 candidates. Sophia's tablet beeped, signaling that the other hotel directors had arrived. Should I take them to the meeting room? She asked. No, Elon replied. We do it right here in the lobby. From this point on, where everything began. The Brooks family, the former owners, are also concerned about their reputation, Elon said, sitting down with his cup of coffee in hand. Let them worry about that. What about the staff here? Here's the interesting part, Michael said, looking at Sophia. She nodded, signaling him to continue. Everyone's talking, not just here, but at other hotels too. The service staff is sharing their stories, demanding to be treated better. The Grant family might be an extreme case, but they're not the only ones. Pointing at her phone, Sophia added, we have a staff chat group. Usually, it's just to warn about problematic guests, but now, she opened the urgent meeting was held at Sapphire Heights, gathering directors from top hotel chains. The hotel lobby, once a place of injustice, was now the venue for discussions about comprehensive change. As the directors entered one by one, the atmosphere was tense. The first to arrive was Jason Miller, owner of the Ashton Hotel. He seemed uncomfortable in the lively atmosphere of the lobby. Musk, this is highly unusual. Negotiations like this are supposed to happen in a conference room, not in a hotel lobby. The times have changed, Elon said simply. He continued, how long will your staff last? Miller shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Since Grant's case had gained significant traction, hotel workers across the nation had spoken out, sharing their stories and calling for change. Hotel leadership was increasingly aware that they were standing at a pivotal moment. Some came in angry, others curious, but all recognized they were participating in a revolution. They gathered in a loose circle near the flower pot, the same place where the initial seminar had taken place. We need to be clear, Vanessa Hall, CEO of Luxury Stays International, spoke up. What you're proposing is unprecedented. A global industry standard for customers, mandatory anti-racism training, real consequences for abusive behavior, regardless of who the guest is. This will completely change the traditional hotel model. Elon responded with one simple sentence. The traditional model is broken. Ask your staff if they're not too afraid to speak the truth. My staff is perfectly satisfied, Harrison snapped. Are they? Sophia stepped forward, holding a tablet. Because according to the Workers United Forum, your Los Angeles branch had 30 complaints of racial discrimination just last year, all quietly resolved with non-disclosure agreements and transfers. Harrison's face paled. Oh. Everyone's talking, Michael interjected gently. The old way of silencing problems no longer works. Miller ran a hand through his hair, his expression frazzled. What are you proposing here? Elon nodded towards Sophia, who began distributing tablets to each director. A new industry standard, the Hotel Dignity Initiative, ensuring fair treatment for all staff and real accountability for racism, sharing profits with employees, career development programs, and most importantly, a zero-tolerance policy for abuse, regardless of how wealthy the guest is. Insane, one director muttered. Our luxury guests expect special treatment. Yes, Michael replied, but does that special treatment mean the right to abuse staff? So, if we refuse, what then? Harrison asked, though her tone had lost its earlier decisiveness. Elon smiled. Then you'll have to explain to your shareholders why you didn't participate in the largest hotel revolution in decades. The press is waiting outside, social media is watching, your staff is looking at you. What will your decision be? A hush fell over the lobby as the directors exchanged glances, then glanced at their tablets, and at the crowd of reporters gathering outside the windows. The discussion grew heated. Some directors were concerned about revenue, while others felt pressure from the media and community. Yet, Elon was unwavering, emphasizing that the change was not only necessary but inevitable. The world is watching, he said, pointing toward the reporters outside. Do you want to be remembered as the ones who perpetuated injustice, or as the ones who led a revolution? Finally, after hours of debate, all the directors agreed to sign the Hospitality Dignity Initiative. Miller spoke up, we'll participate because God knows we need change. One by one, the others, including Harrison, nodded reluctantly. But the signing must be here, in this lobby, she insisted. Of course, Elon replied. If we're making history, Let's do it where it all began. And so, beneath the chandeliers where the confrontation with the Grant family had taken place, surrounded by Michael's support, the executives of the largest hotel chains in the country signed the Hotel Dignity Initiative. Reporters gathered around, cameras flashing. Elon stepped back, allowing Michael and Sophia to field the questions. This was their victory more than his. Michael, standing next to Elon during the ceremony, was asked about his feelings. He simply smiled. This isn't just for me. This is a victory for all of us. His speech, Elon emphasized, this isn't the end, it's the beginning. The values we build today won't just impact the hotel industry, they will inspire others. Not bad for a month's work, a voice came from behind him. Elon turned to see Mia Harper, the head of housekeeping at Ashtonia, watching the signing with tears in her eyes. I've worked in this industry for 35 years, never thought I'd see anything like this. It's time, Elon replied. Yes, Mia smiled. The best part is my daughter is just starting to study hotel management. She wanted to follow in my footsteps, but I was afraid she'd face the same challenges I did. Now, she can be proud of this industry. That night, after the reporters had left and the executives had returned to their work at the hotels, Elon returned to the hotel. The lights were dim, the sound of water from the fountain gently soothing the atmosphere, and at the front desk, Michael was training a new employee. Remember, Michael said, every customer deserves the best service, but you also deserve to be treated with respect. That's our new standard. The young man nodded enthusiastically, his eyes glancing at the plaque. With the Hospitality Dignity Initiative now proudly displayed behind the counter. Elon stood by, watching for a moment before quietly walking toward the elevator. His phone had buzzed, messages from Tesla and SpaceX awaiting his attention, empires to be built. But as he neared the elevator, he heard the new employee ask Michael, "Is it true Elon Musk stood right here and changed everything?" Michael's response echoed across the lobby, "No, he just helped us change ourselves." Sometimes, true leadership isn't about doing everything yourself. It's about showing others they have the power to do it all. Elon smiled as the elevator doors closed. Sometimes, the greatest revolutions begin with the smallest moments. Sometimes, all it takes is one person willing to listen, one person ready to stand up, one person willing to speak out. And sometimes, in the silence of a hotel lobby in Los Angeles, those moments change everything. This story reminds us of the power of change and the courage to stand up for what's right. If you were in Elon's shoes, what would you do to transform an industry that's been in place for so long? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your voice could inspire many and help spark positive change. If you found this story thought-provoking, don't hesitate to share it with your friends and family, spreading the message of respect and accountability in the workplace. Thank you for supporting the channel. Please like, share, and subscribe to receive the latest updates. The stories are collected from various sources and do not represent any individual or organization. They are shared with the intention of spreading human values in life and have been rewritten with the support of AI. If there are any mistakes, kindly overlook them with understanding. Wishing you all the best in life. Our phone and showed Elon a long message thread. Everyone's talking about what happened last night. Elon scrolled through the messages, stories of abuse, discrimination, and struggling with self-worth in the face of prejudice. But now there was something else. Hope, determination, a sense that change was on the way. The morning news wants to interview us, Michael said. They're calling this a turning point for the hotel industry. No interviews, Elon cut in, his voice firm. This isn't about me or about seeking fame. This is another knock on the door. A man, hurriedly dressed in an expensive suit, barged in before anyone could react. "Mr. Musk, thank God you're here. I'm Mark Brooks III, he said, extending his hand, but Elon did not shake it. The Grant family incident. We need to resolve this immediately. My family's reputation, Elon interrupted. Your family sold this hotel 8 months ago, along with a culture of looking the other way when guests abused staff. Mark Brooks' face hardened. Look, we've run this hotel for 3 generations. The Grant family has been one of our most valued clients for a long time. Michael gently interjected, I've worked here for 5 years under your management. I've submitted 10 formal complaints about guest discrimination, all of which were ignored. 3 of my colleagues left for the same reason. You knew about this, but you chose to prioritize your valuable guests over protecting your staff. Sophia stepped forward, her gaze slightly anxious. I've filed complaints 2, 3 times. Your HR department told me I was being too sensitive and needed to focus on improving my service, she said, her voice trembling. Brooks stammered, but Elon raised his hand to stop him. I think this meeting is over. Michael, please escort Mr. Brooks out and ensure that his family's lifetime membership privileges are revoked. After they left, Elon turned back to Sophia. Tell me more about this chat group. How many hotel staff are involved? There are thousands from hundreds of hotels, Sophia replied, her eyes lighting up. Elon gave a slight smile and took out his phone. Then I think Sapphire Heights might need to have more sister hotels, places where mutual respect is the foundation, where talent is valued more than money, and where the true standard means treating everyone fairly. Sophia stared at him, her eyes wide. You mean? Absolutely, I have a few calls to make and some hotels to buy. Elon paused, then added, and maybe a scholarship program for quality culinary schools. Sophia's smile could light up the entire room. The morning passed quickly. The reporters arrived, old clients called to apologize or complain, and in the chaos, Elon's coffee was knocked over, but he barely noticed. For the first time in weeks, he felt energized, focused, and alive. Sometimes, the biggest changes begin with the smallest moments. A quiet confrontation in an empty lobby, a decision that took too long to make, standing up against injustice, a simple choice to listen. The ripples were spreading not just throughout the hotel but beyond the city, carrying the potential for real change. At 3:30 p.m., in the hotel room with breakfast leftovers and unread messages, Elon Musk smiled. Tesla could wait, so could SpaceX. For now, he had another revolution to kick off. His phone buzzed with another interview request from a news agency. He ignored it and instead opened his messaging app, creating a new group, the Hotel Standard Revolution, adding Michael and Sophia as the first members. It's time to redefine luxury, he typed, starting with dignity. Immediate responses flooded in, full of excitement and readiness for change. Outside, the morning light had risen high, casting long shadows across the hotel lobby floor, where everything had begun. Sometimes, the best investments aren't in technology, rockets, or electric cars, but in people, in moments of justice, in small actions against old ways, and sometimes, those investments end up changing the world. A month later, the Sapphire Heights lobby looked completely different in the morning light. The marble floors reflected a warm glow, and the white lights still held Michael's signature touch, as if they were glowing under the sunlight streaming through the windows. Elon stood by the front desk, observing the morning bustle. He had become accustomed to dropping by unannounced over the past month, a habit that no longer surprised the staff. But today was different. Today was the day to make permanent changes. The reporters are gathering outside, Sophia said, approaching with a tablet in her hand. She had swapped her room service uniform for a sleek office suit, fitting her new role as Assistant Director of Guest Relations. Are you sure you want to do this publicly? Sometimes, the best way to ensure change is to make it irreversible, Elon replied, glancing at his phone. No missed calls. He had dedicated this morning to this moment. Michael stepped out of his new office, now dressed in a tailored suit with a director's badge on the lapel. The Grant family lawyer called again. They want to renegotiate terms. What do you think? Elon asked, even though he already knew the answer. Michael smiled faintly. I told them what I've been saying all month. Actions must have consequences. Our scholarship fund is doing great work, and we've already selected the first 15 candidates. Sophia's tablet beeped, signaling that the other hotel directors had. Should I take them to the meeting room? She asked. No, Elon replied. We do it right here in the lobby. From this point on, where everything began.